the fun part begins, and I get to introduce Allie LeBeau, the Director of STEM Pathway Initiatives, who's going to guide us through the rest of the program. Thank you so much for being here, and Allie, please come up.
Thank you so much, Jenny. All right, the lightning talks. This is my favorite day of the year. I got some tissues in my pocket. I'm ready to laugh, I'm ready to be inspired, and I'm ready to share that with all of you. What are we talking about when we're talking about these lightning talks? What did we ask these scholars to do? We challenged them to give a 5-minute presentation, just 5 minutes. That's actually really difficult. There will be 2 rounds of 5-minute presentations. After each round, there will be a Q&A where we ask questions from the audience of the panelists that are up in front of us. The presentations will share their stories, their science, their inspirations, their aspirations. We left it very open. What did they want to share with an audience of peers, an audience of Aquarium supporters, and an audience especially of high school students? There will be a 15-minute break in between, and we will reset after that. So our first round will be 2 scholars participating virtually. Unfortunately, they were unable to join us. Derek Richardson is on his first research cruise right now, but wanted to make sure that he was here. Similarly, other scholars were not able to join us in person, but wanted to make sure their voices were heard today. So we will hear from Derek Richardson and Kendall Chancellor virtually. We will then have Hayden Washington, Hannah Lee, Elias Zamora, and Diana Castillo in front of the theater. Please feel free to clap as often as you want. Feel free to snap if you hear something that inspires you and you want to encourage. This is a challenge, but we know that these scholars are beyond phenomenal and up for the challenge. So I'm going to start. Hayden, are you ready to, or no, sorry, I messed up already. Oh my gosh, see, I messed up already. No, you just sit there. You just sit there. All right, we're gonna start with our virtual participation and then have our live. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Derek Richardson. I am a third-year PhD student in the Atmospheric and Oceanic Science Department at UCLA, and I'd like to share my story of how I went from watching Animal Planet on Saturday mornings to pursuing a PhD. Here is just a roadmap how I'll be explaining my path, starting with where I grew up. So I grew up in Lithonia, Georgia, a community where paths often seem limited to sports, to music, or how to make fast money. In my high school years, science wasn't prioritized. We had old or missing textbooks, and I often felt like academics came second to athletics. But I found myself in the most unexpected place, Animal Planet. Those weekend mornings, watching wildlife documentaries gave me a glimpse into a world beyond my own. That's where my love for science was born. But life at home wasn't easy. When I was 16, my mom got sick. A bad surgery left her unable to work, and we had no income coming into the house. So I had to step up, working full-time at McDonald's, working at minimum wage. At the time, I was a full-time student, I was a full-time musician, I was a full-time after-schools club member, then I had to turn into a full-time provider, just trying to keep the lights on and food on our tables. During that time, the one thing that gave me peace was my passion of music. At first, I joined the marching band just to play, but it became a place for me to breathe. This outlet helped me to escape reality, but little did I know, it was just preparing me for a new reality far from home. This outlet became a bridge to college, where I received a band scholarship to play at Hampton University. Leading me to Hampton University, which is in Hampton, Virginia, I studied marine and environmental sciences with a minor in leadership studies. It was my first real chance to explore the natural world hands-on, something that only felt like a dream when I was back at home. Still, college wasn't easy. There was chemistry, calculus, and coding all hit me hard at once. There were moments where I questioned if I even belonged, But over time, I found support in friends, in faculty, and in myself. I pushed through and graduated with a bachelor's degree in marine and environmental sciences with a minor in leadership studies. Through every struggle, it taught me how to persist and the values of community. However, the ups and downs, all around, allowed me to end up experiencing something like this. Just for some background, this is in Maroa, French Polynesia, where I was learning how to scientifically dive. It was at this moment where I realized that my Saturday mornings in front of the TV became a reality to me. But I did not stop there. I decided to pursue a PhD at the University of California, Los Angeles, where now I am a PhD student. I am the only African American student in my department. Yes, it becomes isolating at times, but it also pushes me to grow as both a scientist and a leader. Now this has shaped my new reality of being committed to making science more accessible to others like me, people who grew up in communities where curiosity has gone unsupported. My journey has been shaped by adversity, but also by curiosity and resilience. From Animal Planet to academic research, I've learned that your environment doesn't define your future. Your drive does. I'm still on this path, still learning, still growing, but I am now determined to bring people with me. Even though I didn't take the time to talk about my experiences in science, here are some of the things I have been blessed to do. Currently, I am not there due to the fact that I am now in Portland, Oregon, boarding the Belle M. Shimada with nowhere to just conduct some fish surveys. I would like to say thank you to the Aquarium of Pacific for all the opportunities they have presented me in this space, but I have a message for everyone. Where you start doesn't determine where you can go. Even if you don't have all the resources right now, your curiosity, hard work, and belief in yourself can open doors. I didn't grow with the best of books or labs, but I followed my passion, and that's what got me here today. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep going. If you have any questions or you have anything you want to just talk about, here are my contacts, reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Kendall Chancellor and I'm a PhD student at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and I'm also a 2025 CELP Scholar. Unfortunately, I can't be there in person today, so I'm going to talk to you virtually about my journey in marine science. So starting from the beginning, I've always loved the ocean since I was a little kid. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, so the ocean wasn't super nearby, but our family from Florida would often visit them and would spend almost every day in the ocean when I was there. Then in Houston, I would get my ocean fix by going to the downtown aquarium, which is pictured in the photo of me hugging the shark statue. I would learn the name of every organism in the aquarium and quiz myself on them each time I visited until I knew them all. As a kid, I would often say that I wanted to be a marine biologist, but my mom wasn't convinced if that was a real job or if I just wanted to play in the ocean every day. So she enrolled me in a marine science summer camp to see if I actually enjoyed it. And I learned a lot in that program and enjoyed the hands-on experience. But unfortunately, there were some major issues. The program was based in a very rural part of Texas that had high racial tension, to say the least, and I was not welcomed in most spaces, and unfortunately, multiple traumatizing experiences occurred. The program also pushed for us to work on offshore oil rigs and tried to teach us that fracking was good for the environment, despite the program being hosted by the #1 university for marine biology in Texas at the time. But I didn't let that negative experience deter me. I still ended up pursuing marine biology when I got older, but this time at an institution where I felt safe and welcomed, which was Hampton University. Shout out to my HBCU. My bachelor's degree from Hampton is in marine and environmental science, so I studied both marine and terrestrial systems there. At Hampton, I did a senior thesis on the effect of urbanization on periwinkle snails in Hampton, Virginia. Urbanization is the process of expanding urban areas and can often lead to the destruction of natural habitats. And then here's a photo of some of the snails from my experiments with their labels on them. I also did research experiences at other universities while in undergrad, the first being the Diversity Project, a program with the University of California, Los Angeles, where we learn about coral reefs from UCLA, get our OAUS scientific dive certification so we can work as scuba divers, and then we go to Moorea, a small island near Tahiti, and study coral reefs for 6 weeks. The research I did at Moorea focused on Turbonaria ornata, a brown macroalgae that had taken over a reef on the island, causing that reef to go from a coral-dominated reef to a macroalga-dominated reef. This transition is negative and usually leads to the loss of fish that depend on the coral. However, on this specific reef, there was still an abundance of fish after that transition. Our research determined what role Turbonaria now filled in the food web of that reef to support all those fish despite the loss of coral. The research I did in Moorea got published and inspired me to pursue a PhD studying coral reefs. But before I get there, I did one more significant research experience in undergrad, and that was studying invasive lionfish at the University of North Florida. Lionfish are native to the Pacific, but are now found in the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and off the coast of the southeastern United States. They were introduced to these non-native waters from people releasing them when they no longer want them as pets. Human consumption has been proposed as the main means of population control, but before we can promote people to eat them, we have to determine if their mercury levels are within the FDA standards for consumption. All seafood has some level of mercury, which is why you're told to not eat seafood when you're pregnant. So it was my job for the summer to analyze mercury levels in lionfish meat to see if they were safe to eat. Then after those research experiences, I applied to grad school and got into a PhD program at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, a department at the University of California, San Diego. I am now in the Salmon Lab there, and our lab uses large area imagery to archive how reefs change over time and to study the effects of human actions on reefs around the world. The process of large area imagery to study reefs involves a diver with a 2-camera setup that automatically takes photos as they swim along the reef. So here's a video of that process. You can see the divers and their cameras, and then here's all the photos that are being taken on that dive. We then use a software called VisCore to stitch those images together to make 3D models of the reef. Our lab has done this for more than 100 islands across the world, with multiple time points for each island. I personally use the models to identify reefs that have developed a resistance to thermal stress and are doing well despite climate change. I then determine what led to these locations developing that resistance and see if that information can be applied to coral reef restoration and management. Lastly, along with my research, I like to volunteer and teach people about coral reefs and general marine biology. Here are some photos and videos from some recent seminars on coral reefs and tide pool sampling that I led for high schoolers and young adults. I've also taught at Scripps and UCSD, and I'm interested in a career in marine conservation that also involves public education and community outreach. Thank you for listening to my journey in marine science, and you can see more of my journey on my Instagram at KendallChancellor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hayden Washington, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit of my journey today. So to start off here, it's just a little bit about me. I'm a senior undergraduate biology major at Loyola Marymount University. I grew up in Santa Clarita, California, which I always tell people is the area around Six Flags if you don't know. I have one older sister, her name is Peyton, and I have one cat, her name is Pepper, and she's the cutest. So growing up, I always knew that I wanted to work with animals in some way in the future. Now, I wish I could tell you exactly where that love for animals came from, but I'm honestly not too sure. After thinking about it for quite some time, I realized that they were always subtly around me, whether that was visiting the Natural History Museum, the Science Center, or the zoo with my grandparents on the weekends, or spending hours and hours at the beach visiting my aunt and uncle in San Diego. So they were kind of always subtly placed in my life, and I think subconsciously that's how my love of animals came to be. I also want to mention that throughout this period in my life and throughout childhood, I gained a huge love for running. from going to the Junior Olympics when I was 11 to going to the NCAA regionals in college, running has been such a huge part of my life, and it's also taught me many of the qualities that have shaped me into the person that I am today. And so I bring this up because, I apologize, a little nervous, but I bring this up because a lot of these qualities and characteristics have carried over into other parts of my life, and so we'll get a little bit more into that later. Okay, so after going through middle school and towards the end of high school, not really knowing what I wanted to do other than, again, work with animals, I decided to take an honors marine biology course in my last semester of my senior year, and I absolutely loved it. We not only got to learn about the ocean and tides and tectonic plates, we also got to learn about so many different organisms within the ocean. We got to study and dissect multiple different types of species, and I was truly able to find a passion of mine. And it's one of the main reasons why I decided to major in biology at LMU. Fast forward to that first semester at LMU, and this is kind of where my story takes a little bit of a negative turn. Throughout this period in my life, I constantly felt like I wasn't good enough to be there. I always felt like I was 10 steps behind everyone else, and it felt like I was in a never-ending spiral of worry, anxiety, self-doubt, and self-consciousness that I had never really experienced before on that level. On top of all that, I didn't really see anybody in my major who looked like me, and so I felt that if I wanted to go talk to somebody, they wouldn't fully understand my situation. But as time went on, day by day, semester by semester, that intense anxiety and doubt that I had once felt began to fade a little bit. Now, this wouldn't have been possible without all of my amazing family, friends, coaches, and advisors, and what I really want to emphasize to you all through my experience is that you are not alone. There will always be someone, at least one person, who wants to see you thrive, see you shine, and will get you through those dark periods in life. So if you've ever felt or are feeling like I did, I again want to say that you are not alone. In fact, you're helping pave the path for future generations to thrive. You belong in every space that you step into. You are right where you need to be in life, and you deserve to shine after coming out of those dark tunnels and dark periods in life. I also want to mention that I had to utilize a lot of the strategies and characteristics that I had gained from running at a young age to get through this period in my life. And so I had to persevere. I had to put my best foot forward, and I never gave up no matter how difficult the situation was. And thankfully, if I didn't go through those difficult times, then I wouldn't be able to share that I'm now a part of a marine physiology research lab at LMU with Dr. Maria Vasquez. And in this lab, we utilize mussels as a model organism to see how climate change has negatively impacted the marine environment. I'm also a current volunteer here at the Aquarium. I'm a veterinary services volunteer. Thank you. And I get to see a lot of the patient cases here, and it's been super, super fun. And so lastly, in the future, I don't know exactly what path I would like to go down towards, but I'm most likely going to be taking a gap year and then either applying to vet school or applying to get a master's degree in marine biology. Thank you so much for listening to my journey.
Hello? Okay. Dear younger me, life has been exhausting, confusing, and at times overwhelming, but also breathtakingly rewarding. Every challenge, every decision, and every moment of doubt has shaped who you are today, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. You have so much story to tell, and yet still so much ahead of you. The quirk and curiosity everyone desperately didn't like you for became the best quality I love about you. It's a reason why I'm steps closer to my life's goal, being happy. And I wouldn't imagine the first Vietnamese Chinese American kid who grew up in a small suburban town in Georgia to be in her 20s on the West Coast figuring out her life on her own, but of course to the fullest. In high school, you tried a bunch of things, ranging from French Club, Asian American Student Association, Music Honor Society, but what caught your eye was your cycling club. You went to a Defend the Atlanta Forest tattoo fundraising event, and it changed your life. You gave a presentation about that to your club and showed the classmates how destruction would erase not only trees, but history, culture, and identity. Although it was your first time public speaking, it felt amazing to know how knowledge can inspire to create change to their communities. That moment, you showed how vast environmentalism is. Instead of feeling overwhelming, it sparked this sense of passion and curiosity, more to discover and more to share, more to connect. In that space, you saw community, advocacy, and art intertwining, and you knew that was the path you wanted to follow. You romanticized a new life across the country, a fresh start away from what you finally what you love. I realized that I couldn't run away from everything. Your first year at UCSD was filled with disappointment, academic spiraling, constant multitasking and burning out, health issues, financial and mental stress, all while juggling family, friendship, and relationship issues. You're always calling back home, going back to LA to your cousins, or flying back. Even though you hated home, you hated being alone more. Though it's reminded you why you're there, to honor your parents' sacrifice and to pursue your dreams. But you were there for a reason. You got back up and stayed active. You got backed up and locked in. You stayed active in your family's life, fulfilling responsibilities and supporting them all the way across the country. Learn how to multitask successfully by combining all your interests, protected your peace, and most importantly, you learn it's okay not to be the expectation everyone wants you to be. Every failure, every expectation does define who you are, and you choose your own definition. With that, you learn how to tattoo. You started tattooing for advocacy, doing bi-yearly fundraisers where a portion of the tattoos go to a social environmental cause. It's the first thing that you finally did for yourself without any expectations, starting from nothing. It combined all your interests into one, and for the first time in a while, you were happy. Although it was hard to break into the tattooing world and took several months, I found myself a community and the joy of sharing and hearing, I found myself in a community and kept that joy of sharing and hearing stories with me. Throughout your time, you focused on accessibility in the field, creating open communities, and most importantly, kept yourself and your happiness. Right now, you're a third-year marine bio student at UCSD, doing research on microenvironment in the fish throughout evolution and microplastics in Daphnia. But you're also a part-time tattoo artist at Pixely Oddities, a co-founder of Tokens, a director of operations for Poetry in Places, and a campus ambassador for Regeneration Field Institute. You still integrate science, art, and community building to all your roles, and most importantly, you're happy to be yourself, enjoying your niches, and forever being that little girl I remember. Oh, sorry. You're still on that journey, and there's still so much ahead of you. But look what you already built. Look how far you've come, and remember that every step, the ones that feel like missteps, has brought you closer to the person that you would want to be. Keep trusting yourself, your curiosity, and resilience. Keep showing up to the people and the causes that matter to you. And most importantly, don't be afraid to take risks, create, and to fail, because each moment of courage shapes the next chapter. The world you're building isn't about achievements. It's about connection, purpose, and most importantly, discovering yourself. And at the end of the journey, with all its twists and turns, it's your greatest accomplishment. Love you.
Hi. I'm sorry for the corny title, but yes, that's basically me. I am a nerd who just likes fishes. And let me introduce myself. My name is Elias Emmanuel Zamora. You can call me Elias, Eli. You call me by middle name, Emmanuel. And yeah, I'm a fourth year undergraduate at University of California, Irvine, and I'm going to tell a little bit more about myself. So yeah, so this is a lot of pictures about me. These are my family, baby pictures, because who loves baby pictures, right? And also my cat. Her name is Nina, and she's one of my favorite companions at home whenever I get home during the weekends and all that. A little bit more about me. Here's more of the text. I am American Guatemalan, and my parents came from Guatemala to this country for me and my brother to have a better opportunity to have a successful life here, and I appreciate their sacrifice that they did for me. I'm also born and raised in the Inland Empire, so I grew up around the San Bernardino area. I lived around San Bernardino, but I did a lot of my high school and elementary in the Rialto city as well. I identify as a second-gen, low-income student. My parents did go to college when around 40 years ago, or later than that, and they were able to learn a little bit more about what the college degree is here. Although my dad graduated and my mom wasn't able to finish college, I am the continuation of them, and my brother was as well. So I also am a Christian, and also a Sunday school teacher in my church, and a lot of my favorite hobbies. I like watching movies. I like playing indie video games. I just recently started fishing, which is a really fun hobby, and I'm also a big foodie. So, yeah. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my experience at UCI. So I always wanted to do something ecology-based. Going into UCI, I wanted to do engineering at first, but I switched mainly going into the environmental aspect of marine biology, and I was watching Blue Planet as a kid, and I loved that documentary, and it was amazing. But when I considered it as a degree and as a career, I was a little worried about like what the opportunities I can pursue, what I was able to achieve with that. So when I applied to UC Irvine, I had not noticed that the university I had chose was primarily pre-medical based. And it felt very intimidating at first when I met a lot of the people who were wanting to become doctors, who wanted to become dentists, who wanted to become anywhere in the medical field. And it felt very intimidating that I was the only ecology student in my cohort when I entered. And I was really worried that I was not going to connect well with people. I felt very worried, and I felt not supported enough, and I felt a little alone at the time. My first year was really hard, trying to meet people and trying to connect well with others. And it really made me feel like I felt like I had chosen the wrong school. Like maybe my degree was something that I just wanted to do it for passion instead of like actually being a good support for a future. Maybe my parents' sacrifice I made was not worth it as much because I chose a degree that was not going to help me as much. But I realized that I was just overthinking it. And I found a lot of community with a lot of the organizations that I have up there, as well as the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at UC Irvine. And I realized that a lot of the people that I've met had gone through the same thing, had to develop that type of resilience. And I realized that I also had to develop that. As I pursued my degree more, I realized that I chose a degree that makes me happy. I chose a degree that I feel like will make me successful. I feel a degree that will make my parents proud. And honestly, that's what makes me very happy. And I'm super happy for the CELP Scholarship Program for allowing me to tell that about to you and also just be able to pursue that further. So what do I do now? I am a member of the American Fisheries Society. I just started a president position, but I was secretary for a couple of years. I am a mentor. I love the mentorship position. I think it's one of the greatest positions you can do in the academia field, and I really love mentoring first years as they come in. I'm also a part of the Fish Club, so we have some really cool pictures up there. And yes, I designed that circuit, which was really fun. I also work in the Martinez Fish Lab, which is a fish morphology lab, and I do a lot of this work. And that's my PI. That's me at my recent symposium. I think it was a really fun event. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really interested in pursuing this type of work and research, especially with marine fishes. This was one of the most recent projects that I worked on, and what's really cool is that fish over there is a catfish from a cave system in southern Mexico, and it actually is a partially blind, as you can see, has one missing eye and doesn't have one at all, and it's really interesting. We're trying to figure out what we can learn more about this system and like this extreme traits and environments that it has caused. What do I want to do after UCI? Well, it's still a work in progress. Yeah, so my university is offering a 4+1 program, which I would love to pursue, and I'm hoping to get into it to get my master's. I also would love to do a PhD in comparative morphology and understanding extreme traits of organisms, especially fishes and deep sea fishes and all other types of invertebrates and other creatures. And I want to be a mentor, especially I want to be a proficient mentor and make people feel comfortable and happy with the position that they're in, just like I was and how some of the people did it for me. And I really want to be the representation of Latino system for Central Americans and Guatemalans who I didn't get to see a lot of them as I grew up. So yeah, thank you for listening about my presentation.
Good morning. My name is Diana Castillo, and I am a student, parent, and graduate student at Cal Poly Pomona. So a little bit about myself is that my family is from Santa Lucia, Cochumahuapa, Guatemala. Hopefully I said that right. And let me see. So I am the first U.S.-born citizen in my family, and I'm also the first among 7 siblings in my family to have access to higher education and be the first in my family to earn a college degree. Thank you. But before earning my college degree, how did I get inspired to earn my degree? Well, growing up from a single mother, I was always told that education is the key to success and the door to many opportunities. So early on, I learned to dream about earning my college degree, getting a good job, and buying a house for my mom to repay her for all her sacrifices. But as we all know, life doesn't always go according to the plans that we make. So what I'm about to share are some of the experiences that I encountered during my 15-year journey to earning my bachelor's degree. So in 2008, I was sexually assaulted, and that traumatic experience changed everything for me. I was lost, I was confused, and I didn't know what to do. So I pretended that it never happened. So for a while that worked, but eventually all those emotions, I was feeling lonely, confused, and I need a minute. Eventually, all of that started to surface, and I didn't do well in school anymore. So eventually, I got academically disqualified from CELP. But I want to share that I wasn't disqualified because I'm not smart enough or capable, but because I stopped believing in myself. So what I decided to do next was that, did I learn from my lesson? No. I tried to have a fresh start at SMC. But the thing about pain is that it haunted me. So it continued, I continued to struggle. And again, I tried to have a fresh start at LACC. But by that point, I had reached my breaking point and I didn't want to live anymore. But what changed for me is that I met someone really special who made me feel safe and gave me the opportunity to share my story and really listen to what I had to say. So I slowly started to believe in myself. But as you're seeing in my timeline, I was still struggling with my courses at LACC. So this time, I tried to redeem myself by re-enrolling at SMC, and this time I took a career course to prove to myself that I didn't belong in STEM. With all the assignments, the tests that I took in that class, it actually pointed out that my passion isn't STEM. And you would think that I'll be happy, but I was actually very upset because during my time at CSUN, LACC, and SMC, I realized that no one looked like me. So I was confused how I can belong here. So eventually, I was struggling with my sense of belonging, And my husband, who was my boyfriend then, realized that I was, pretty much giving up on myself. So he started looking for resources or anything that can prove to me that I do belong here. And then that's when I realized about volunteer opportunities at the LA Zoo and the Pasadena Humane Society. And, I gained experiences there, and I love that very much. And I also gained animal experiences, which I've been needing, been wanting at PetSmart and at Petco. And it proved to me that this is what I want to do, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I slowly started believing in myself, and I finally earned my associate's degree in natural sciences and mathematics at LACC 12 years later. And then I finally transferred to Cal Poly Pomona. And 2021 was a very special year for me because not only did it indicate that I was finally a step closer to earning my bachelor's degree, but it was also the year that I finally became a mom. And being a mom, I was just given a new sense of purpose in life, and it gave me a surge of inspiration to prove to my daughter that women, people of color, and mothers are capable of achieving anything they set their minds to. So I finally earned my bachelor's degree in biology 15 years later. And thank you. I decided that I wasn't done learning yet. It was 15 years. It was a few more years. So I decided to continue my education, and I got accepted to Cal Poly Pomona's master program for biology. But then I soon realized that being a parent and a student isn't easy. I was juggling 3 jobs, focusing on my research and being a student, and I was burnt out. So by spring 2025, I decided that if I didn't receive any scholarships, that was the end of my academic journey. But today I stand here as a CELP Scholar, and I am so grateful to be part of this supportive community. You all remind me that I do belong here, and I am so grateful to be to know each and every one of you and the people I have yet to meet. And if you get something out of my story, it's just to I want you to leave today that your story matters, and to never give up on your dreams. And with that said, I just want to take a moment to express my gratitude because this was a life-changing opportunity. This was a multi-generational gift, so it's an answered prayer that my mom's been praying for such a long time. I get to continue my education, and I get to ensure that my daughter doesn't struggle as much as I did growing up. So thank you very much for believing in me and for listening to my story. So to the development department, to the Aquarium at the Pacific donors, the selection committee, to the staff that I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet, the CELP Scholar community, my family and my friends, thank you.
Whew, I'm gonna need a second. Can we give a big round of applause to our first rounder? Just as a side note, we randomly select the order. It is not intentional at all. And I knew when Diana was going to be the last speaker, it was going to be hard for me to speak. Let's bring the house lights up and invite our 4 panelists up. This is our opportunity to, give a round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your gratitude, sharing your journeys, sharing so much of yourself with this audience. Doing that is an honor for us. Thank you so much. Thank you also not only for preparing those speeches, but being willing to offer some questions live. And so now we're going to ask members of our audience, if you have questions, we'd love to ask directly. They can be for a specific scholar, or it can just be a general question for all of our scholars. Candace and I will have some microphones that we can move around with. Please make sure that you're speaking right into the microphone, just because we do have that streaming audience. So we want to make sure that they hear their questions. So where should we start? Who has a question for our panelists?
So many of you said that you went through a stage of not believing in yourself. I'm just wondering where that comes from. Is that something you think comes from the generation you are part of? Does it come from, I don't know, social media? But what do you think the generative area was that gave you that feeling of not believing in yourself? Because clearly you're all going to be very accomplished people.
Okay, hello? Okay. I know you mentioned that, thank you for your question. I know you did mention that, does it come from social media or for family? For me personally, I'm an older, non-traditional student, so I didn't have access to social media then. So for me, it was lack of representation. And, I've been to 3 different campuses or 4 campuses now. And, I could never feel represented or feel like I could connect with someone. So it made it hard for me to reach and ask for assistance and looking for opportunities that, I realize now that I am capable. I hope that makes sense.
Hello, yeah. In my case, I think it would just be definitely the dedication my family did, my parents did to come to this country and be able to offer me this opportunity. Like, my mom would tell me stories of how she took a bike all the way from Guatemala all the way over here, and it's very inspirational that she did all that sacrifice for me. So I just wanted to be like, I wanted to make it worth it. I want her to be happy that I chose a career that makes her happy, and also maybe it's not like the highest paying job, but something that like establishes the reason why she came here and the reason why she did all that, so that I could have a successful life and that she could feel happy that I am happy as well.
Is it okay if I quickly add on to that? As Elias was saying about, his parents' sacrifices, to answer that question too about lack of representation, but I was also the first in my family among 7 siblings. So it's just like a lot of navigation that I had to do on my own. So I didn't know what I was doing. So, and then not knowing who I can ask for assistance made it even harder. And, now I'm learning to ask for help, and especially here at the, I'm always emailing them like, can you help me find access to how I can, make this, gain the skill that I'm looking forward to. So thank you.
Hello. Okay. To also add on to what Diana said, for me, it was really difficult going into a new environment and also not having kind of someone in the background being like, you have to do this and you have to apply for this and you need to go over here and do this. So seeing a lot of people in my major doing that, doing all of those things, I was kind of felt like I had mentioned, like a little bit behind, like wasn't really sure. And so I think that kind of adds to me not feeling, I guess, even like the most prepared or feeling a little bit, having a little bit of imposter syndrome as well. So I think that's where it came from, but yeah.
For me, it was definitely, I was first gen, so I was one of the first to go for college. And then also I was moving across the country, which made it hard because I had like no one. But also I was very bad at school and testing. So like seeing everything go negative and then my grades go negative, or like it made me want to like leave.
Great. Who else has a question for us?
Hello. Out of all of the achievements and successes you've talked about in your presentation, I just have a question on what specific advocacy things have you represented or things that you've done in this field? Like, what are your favorite aspects of advocating for gender, class, or race that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. So I think through my mentorship role, I've had a lot of random assigned first year students come up to me, and I had different majors, I had different people, but they all come from different backgrounds, and they had their different stories to tell. And the thing is, my program focuses on underrepresented uh, people, so a lot of first gen, a lot of uh, low income students, and I think that advocating that they feel welcome wherever they are, that what it doesn't matter where they went through, the fact that they made it to the institution, the fact that they're there, is the first thing I like to provide. But I also like to tell them that they can do it. They can represent who they are. They can um, be happy with what they choose, the way they go. And if they struggle, if they feel like they need help, I'm there to help them. But also, I want them to know that I went through the same thing when I started at UCI, and I felt alone. And I want to make sure that they don't feel alone, and make sure they feel happy at their time, their first years. So. Um, it definitely makes them feel comfortable. And I'm really happy to see their smiles on their faces when they leave my 30-minute meetings with them, and they feel comfortable and happy as they leave.
First of all, great presentation. And my question to you is, you guys talked about being a mentor and representing your community. So what would be some of the things you guys would do to accomplish that?
Yeah, definitely. I want to be able to be the representation for Central Americans and for Latinos especially. Whether it be like uh, showcasing my story, if that's one way I do things. I don't do a lot of volunteer opportunities in general, but any method of doing that. I can't really think of anything in my mind at the moment, but I definitely want to make the word out there that I went through this. And I think my story is the biggest example of that. My parents came to this country. I know a lot of you have parents that came from different countries as well. Just because I'm Latino, maybe you're not. I want everybody to feel assured that you're able to achieve as long as you believe in yourself and find the right community. That's definitely what I would say.
Anybody else want to answer, chime in about mentoring while we have you? All right, where's our next question?
Okay. So I'm wondering, because we're in Odyssey at Lakewood, so I'm pretty sure most of us are interested in marine ecology or marine biology and whatnot. And I'm wondering what you guys suggest are good courses of action to take as high school students, like volunteering or leadership or advocacy, what you guys think we should do so we can be successful like you once we're in post-secondary education.
For me, I came from literally the middle of Georgia, so it's landlocked in there. There's nothing else. What I did was explore any options given to me. Explore maybe explore environmental science, explore bio, explore anatomy, explore anything you have. Because although you know that you're interested in marine bio, knowing other sciences and knowing other different topics is even better.
Hello? Is it on? Oh, okay. Never know. Sorry. I think I would also say to Also, just do a lot of good research to see what other opportunities are out there for you. I think that was a lot of what I did is when I was curious about something, I would kind of go and just research what was around me, what volunteer opportunities or internships I could find to just gain more experience before college.
To add on to that, I want to mention that, they mentioned doing research because you're the one who knows what you want to do, at least for now, and then that could always change. So you want to be open to the idea of exploring new experiences, ask for help, especially go to office hours, ask for, set up meetings with your advisor, go over your course plan, look at what courses are being offered because not all of them are offered each year. So if you're really interested in the course, you want to make sure that you're able to enroll in that. And then, allow yourself the grace to, if it wasn't what you expected, to learn from that and be like, what didn't work, so that you're not repeating the same mistakes over and over again, and then you can allow yourself to try something new.
While the microphone is making its way over there, I have a follow-up question. Many of our students may be looking at college applications, majors. Does it matter? Is there a school they have to go to? Is there a major they have to have?
Well, you saw I went to 4 different campuses, so no, it doesn't matter what school you go to. What matters is what you make the most of your time at the campus that you end up at. So, you could go to UC or a private school. What you do with your time is what matters most.
To go along with that, Diana's totally right, but I thought I was going to go to UCLA, like that was my dream school. And so I ended up going to LMU because they gave me so many opportunities. So you don't have to go to a specific school. Your life is going to change, go through ups and downs, and you just take those with you no matter where you go. So
you don't have to be any major either. You're literally given the same resources as everybody else. I use the resources the same engineers do. You get in the same buildings. So use your tuition up.
I would like to say, don't feel intimidated with what the type of school is. Like I said, I didn't realize I chose a school that was heavily pre-med based, but I figured out a way to find community, and I found people like that were going to school to learn about this stuff that I wanted to learn. And I know there's other schools that have a more defined program, that have more defined opportunities and classes and all that stuff. But just because you want to go to school and you don't know what they're offered there, choose the school that you like. Choose the school that calls to you, kind of deal. And if you feel like there isn't enough opportunities and programs, pave the way to make that, or pave the way to find resources out there. Like I did with the CELP Scholarship Program, it was offered, and my school promoted it, and that was one of the options that I was able to do here. Yeah.
All right, I think the microphone has found its way over.
Is this? Oh, it's on. Hannah, you said you went to UC San Diego, and that's kind of my dream school to go to, so I just wanted to ask how it is there, and...
It's really rough if you're not pre-med. There's a lot of pre-meds on campus. I'm not the right person to ask because my first year was terrible, but from other people, I heard it's pretty good. It was better in my second year. I actually really enjoyed my second year and my current year right now after I started my own organization, but don't let people get to you, I guess. Like, just follow your own path, create your own happiness. It doesn't have to follow anyone else. If you don't find people don't find your own happiness, create it yourself. I do think if you're talking about marine bio, it's really amazing. But yeah.
I went to UCSD too, and I had a similar experience, so if you can find me later. But I think building community probably helped me a lot too. So on a similar note, I know a few of you mentioned hobbies in your presentations. Poetry, fishing, motherhood, which I think is a hobby. Certainly takes up a lot of time. So how have your hobbies influenced your journey and maybe helped you get to where you are today?
It was one of the reasons why I decided to stay in California instead of going back home. Now I'm like in a studio and like I'm proud of where I started from the beginning, like tattooing my friends on like a couch, to going to markets, to now actually being like officially licensed professional. And I think having that like stability here made me very happy and like realize like I can have stability in my major in graduate school or in undergrad too, as long as I just keep going.
Running for me was always really just an outlet that was didn't have anything to do with academics or anything else. So I was able to really find my community there, whether that was when I was younger or in college now. Yeah, it just was really helpful as a way to kind of put everything else aside and focus on what I was doing in that moment. And yeah, it definitely helped me my first year for sure.
For me, motherhood, being a mom, my daughter inspires me. So even though I'm about to be 35 on Monday, that doesn't mean that my identity ends as being a mother. So, it's very important for me to prove to my daughter that we are capable. Like I mentioned in my speech, women, people of color, especially mothers, I'm not just a mom. I'm a student. I'm an aspiring marine biologist. So, even though my body may not agree with me, what I put it through, I want to earn my diver certification. I want a scientific diver. I want to do a lot more stuff that, I didn't get the opportunity to do so when I was younger. So my inspiration is my daughter. Like, I want to prove to her that she's capable of doing anything so that one day when she grows up, she can say, I can do that too.
I think fishing made me like fish more than I did already. Yeah, I recently started that hobby. I'm still not good. I'm not that good at it yet, but I think for sure one thing I like is it distracts me from like realizing that it's not just about school. It's not just about going to your university. You're people. We're human. I think we like to have fun sometimes. I think I like having fun. Whether it be on my own with my family or with my brother and everything. I think it's good to dedicate some of your hobbies that you like. I like fishing. I like playing video games. I really think it's fun. I also like food. Who doesn't love food, right? But I think it's just fun to be able to distract yourself a little bit. And it also definitely made me feel more welcome because I found some stuff that I related with people. Simple hobbies. Like maybe I don't relate with my major. Maybe I don't relate that. Oh, you like food. I like food too. Let's go eat. Or you like fishing. I like fishing. All that stuff. So I think it's just you'll make connections in the areas where you least expect it. That's how I take it.
As like first generations, did you guys experience any like higher academic pressure, especially from our Guatemalans? Because I feel like that's a big thing, especially like being first generation, and like how did you deal with that?
Do you want me to say it for you?
Yeah. As like first generations, especially my Guatemalans, was there any higher academic pressure to do better, and how did you deal with that?
Oh, there was a lot of pressure, not only from my mom, because I was raised by a single mother. So, being the firstborn here in the U.S., that's something that I constantly grew up hearing about. but it wasn't a negative thing, you know. It was just like, I need you to make sure that you have a better opportunity than what I did. So, you know, that it really inspired me to push through. But as you get older and the people you associate with, that's what added pressure, because you start comparing yourself to other people, like, or you start hearing to like, this person's doing that, and why aren't you doing this? So, you know, not only are you adding pressure to yourself, but surrounding yourself with people that aren't doing that to you, it's important, because you want people to support you, to uplift you, and remind you that you are capable of achieving your dreams. So I think that's very important for you to be able to pursue your goals, because if you continue to surround yourself with people who put you down or envy you, that's gonna make it harder for you, and you're gonna continue with that pressure. So, you know, being a CELP scholar now, like, I have my community and I feel so supported, and I really am inspired that, like, I've been learning from their skills, and I'm like, I want to do that too, you know. Like, pressure shouldn't be like, that I can't do this. If anything, it should motivate you to say, I want to do that too.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of pressure. I'm a second gen, so my parents, they go to college, but my dad, even though he did get a bachelor's degrees, he wasn't able to stay in the workforce for long. So he retired recently, and he spent a lot of his time working Home Depot after realizing that he wasn't able to get a job. And my mom wasn't able to finish college because of financial issues. So my brother didn't finish college either, so I like to say I'm the last stand in my family to do so. So I feel like the pressure's higher, because even though I don't relate with first gen, that I don't know what college is about, I feel like in my case, like, I'm the one that's like, I can finish what my parents and my brother didn't finish, and what they started, and I want to be able to finish that. So it's just like, oh, I'm the one that's actually supposed to do that. So for sure, I highly recommend, don't feel like you're required to be like the most successful person on earth. Just be happy with what be happy with your degree that you want to do, be happy with what you want to pursue, and make sure you find the support. Make sure you find people who are happy that you're happy, and also find something that your parents will also be happy with. And I bet you your parents will support you no matter what. Your family, your friends, anyone will support you no matter what. So, for sure.
All right, we're going to do one more question before our break.
So, out of every campus that you guys been through, what is the most, what is like the college that you guys learned most?
I think, is there a specific campus? You mentioned many campuses and many schools. Was there one that was really, which campus experience did you learn the most from?
For me, at CSUN, I loved it, you know, and I expected to finish my degree there, but, you know, that wasn't in my timeline. But I loved it there. And so when I started at LACC and SMC, I think every campus has something different to offer, because it's based on what you make your experience. So at SMC, at LACC, I learned that even though I was struggling, there was a few professors that like gave me the opportunity, like really listened to me, but they didn't know what to do with that. So by the time I got to Cal Poly Pomona, I was really excited, because, you know, I want to work with animals. I love being outdoors, and that's kind of a campus that's away from the city. So, you know, there's horses, and then I realized that that campus has like marine biology courses that offer you the opportunity to travel to Hawaii, and I'm hoping to go to Panama next year. So, you know, that's what really made it exciting for me, just the opportunities to grow, the opportunity to do field work, because I didn't have any of that during my undergrad. So I think, you know, you don't really know what campuses offer unless you start seeking for those opportunities.
All right, thank you so much. Can we have one more round of applause for our round one? Amazing. Thank you again for sharing so much of yourselves with us. We're going to take a short break. There is this space that you can stretch in. There is also right next door our Ocean Science Center. Please don't go too far, but stretch your legs, move yourself a little bit, and we will be back for round 2.
So, I totally messed up.
10:30, 10:30, 10:25, 10:20, 10:25.
I felt nervous coming up, but for sure I was up here. The hard part was the microphone.
I'll probably put another. All right, everybody came back. Amazing. Hopefully you got the blood moving, felt inspired, had some good conversation. We're going to move into our second round. For our second round, we do have a virtual participation again. Ami Kakapit will be joining us virtually to kick off our round 2. We'll then be joined by Amelia Fuentes, Jordan Scott, Passion Hawkins, Lydia Lifquist, Otto Martinez, and Dylan Matthew Chrysostomo. Let's hear a round of applause for our round 2.
Today, my name is Ami Kakapit, and I'm going to be talking about rediscovering Indigenous insights in education and conservation. In undergrad, I had this reawakening of identity. I grew up in Guam, and as an Indigenous Chamorro, I'm on this journey of self-discovery, both through my people's native language, but also through their worldview and how they see their surroundings. When I took Chamorro lessons, I found out that the word for work was tiltu. This also translates to coal, and it's very fitting because in ancient times, the Chamorro people would transport limestone or coal skeletons, and they would use them to create infrastructure such as houses, like seen on the picture on the left. As an aspiring coral ecologist, I thought this was really fitting, and it paralleled what my ancestors were going through because coral is also my work, but instead of building houses, I studied it through my PhD research. To reinforce this ancestral perspective, I wanted to pursue STEM. I wanted to learn more about the ocean and learn more about just the natural world, and so I went and applied to graduate school. I studied hard, got my bachelor's at the University of Guam, and then studied at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And there I got to learn about reefs across the Pacific through long-term monitoring programs and collaborations. Coral reefs are not only beautiful, but they support island communities like the Chamorro people. And throughout this PhD program, I'm learning so much about reefs all across the Pacific, but also working alongside Pacific Islanders who are on the ground and leading the charge at conservation throughout these regions. Specifically, my work in my lab specializes in photogrammetry methods. Photogrammetry is a survey method where we take thousands of images on a reef, we stitch them together, and create these digital reconstructions, these digital twins of these reefs. And this method allows us to observe and document specific changes to coral reefs, and more so even coral colonies. And when we get to look and learn from the past through these monitoring efforts, we get to see how these reefs change, what's changing about the system, and who is being affected. And so by looking at monitoring data, we're learning about patterns and processes from the past. This reinforces the Chamorro worldview of circular time, where things don't move from point A to point B, but it's all interconnected. What came before us will come back around and serve us. And so the word for ancestor, Tautomona, directly translates to people before us, but it also means the people in front of us, because they are the ones we look to answers to, they're the ones who we look for guidance, and it's a reflection into our ecosystem that continues to fuel this curiosity and excitement as a future Tautomona. And so by looking at reefs this way, we can learn about natural history of a place. When we take the time to observe and record, we become like Tautomona, or the people before us who have watched these reefs just as closely as scientists do now. And so I encourage you all to do the same, to look at your home reef just as closely, whether it be your backyard, your neighborhood, or your favorite ecosystem. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Amelia, an aquatic biology student at UC Santa Barbara. I'm interested in combining my passion for both the STEM and humanities fields to study behavioral ecology, wildlife conservation, and science communication. Today, I wanted to provide more context beyond what you can find on my LinkedIn profile to share my STEM story. My mother was born in Xi'an, China, and my father was born in the Canary Islands, Spain. I was born in Tennessee, a landlocked state that's 6 hours from the nearest beach. You might be wondering why I chose to pursue marine biology when I lived here for the first 18 years of my life. I've always loved animals and nature, but I was particularly drawn to the ocean because I knew so little about it. Aquariums, documentaries, and the rare trip to the Canary Islands were the main ways I could see the ocean. But aside from these brief encounters, my decision to study marine biology was a purely intuitive and slightly unrealistic one. During my college application process, I came across an essay written by Meghan Markle. It was titled, "I'm More Than an Other." The essay described Meghan's upbringing as a biracial American and how an ethnicity census could never properly describe her diverse cultural background. As a half Chinese and half Spanish American, born and raised in the South, I deeply resonated with Meghan's story. But I also began to realize that my relationship with the word other has evolved. Other isn't a normal option on the bubble sheet. It's the one that requires an explanation. Other is ambiguous, and that used to feel meaningless. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that other's vague definition allows me to create my own, to decide who I am and who I want to be. Throughout college, I've learned to find my little spaces in this big world, and those spaces aren't bubbles on bubble sheets. They're in traditional Chinese dishes and traveling to my family's hometowns. They're between the lines of my favorite films, beneath the ripples of the local tide pools, and in my nature-inspired jewelry business. I've also found my space in marine biology, and this began at the reef, where I'm responsible for 8 sharks, a marine heatwave system, husbandry tasks, and leading public programs. It's surreal to work as an aquarist after spending so much time in aquariums as a young girl, and every day I wake up knowing that I am living out my childhood dream. Thank you. Another crazy full circle moment happened a few months ago on a reef program. It was a totally normal shift till I suddenly noticed a very familiar face in the crowd. It was none other than Meghan Markle. Unfortunately, I don't have photographic evidence of Meghan at the reef because asking for a picture would have been very unprofessional, but I promise she was there. If you needed some help imagining what that would have looked like, this is probably exactly what we would have looked like. I was in shock, not just because a famous person was visiting the reef, but because this particular famous person inspired my college application essay, which helped me get into UCSB and even this very program. Seeing Meghan at the reef helped me realize just how far I'd come, because almost exactly 3 years ago today, I moved across the country all by myself to pursue marine biology, a field that I had absolutely zero experience with. 3 years ago, I lived over 2,000 miles away from home, but now California is my home. 3 years ago, I didn't know a single person in the state, and now I know and love so many. 3 years later, I've had many marine biology experiences, from watching sea turtles lay eggs in Costa Rica to presenting my research on snapping shrimp behavior. Throughout college, I've learned that diversity is a strength, and science absolutely needs diverse perspectives to work together towards a better future. I've learned to say yes to opportunities because one good connection has exponential pathways. And I've also learned the importance of lifting as I climb, and as an aspiring research professor, I hope to continue to uplift new voices. A lot has changed since I started college, but what remains the same is my otherness. I now recognize that I'm more than just mixed race, I'm mixed everything. I love aquariums and ecology and statistics. But I also love literature, film, and art. And so I balance between these two academic fields in the same way that I balance between my three very different cultural backgrounds. I'm a student, an entrepreneur, an aspiring marine biologist. I'm creative and curious and passionate. But even still, I cannot limit myself to one label because there isn't a single word or any combination of words that can encapsulate the nuances of being human, of being me, except for one, other, because other is both anything and everything. It's diverse, it's inclusive, it's adaptable, which is exactly who I am and who I will continue to be. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Scott, and this is my journey going from soccer to science, centered on believing in yourself, saying yes, and finding community. So for context, I'm a fourth-year undergrad at Cal Poly Pomona, and I'm majoring in environmental biology and minoring in chemistry. I was born in Fresno, raised in Sacramento. I'm a big sister of 3, and I'm a former collegiate soccer player. So to start, I'm sure you all can relate, but this love for the ocean started at a very young age for me. I fell in love with it through the National Geographic Kids magazines, the ocean documentaries, and of course our local aquariums. It has always been just kind of a place of peace for me and really just sparked my curiosity in many ways. So for me, marine biology has always been a career in the back of my mind, but as I grew up, I didn't really see myself represented in the scientists that I looked up to, let alone my peers or my teachers in school. So a career in this field felt very unfeasible for me to pursue. Another important part of my identity growing up was being a competitive soccer player. I played for about 13 years, and it was, at a certain point, it was truly my whole life. I dedicated my weekends, most of my free time to playing. It is a big reason of why I am who I am today, and it taught me a lot of really amazing, valuable lessons. And from this, I was able to earn an athletic scholarship to play soccer at Cal Poly Pomona. And about halfway through my first year, I had come to a really tough realization that the community and the environment I was in no longer, or it didn't align with my values and no longer align with the person that I wanted to become, let alone was it benefiting my mental or physical health. So kind of at a low point with a big realization after I dedicated 13 years of my life to this sport, one of my lab proctors reached out and told me I should check out this intertidal ecology lab. So I decided to do that, and it just opened up this whole world for me. And I learned how to do biodiversity sampling for marine, and I also learned how to do restoration. And I learned all of this alongside a group of really incredible mentors and now my friends, and it really just affirmed that I wanted to pursue this field, even if I didn't see myself in it. I wanted to become the representation that I needed to see growing up. So from there, I decided to take a step away from soccer and just pursue this field with 100% of my effort. And then next for me was becoming a scuba diver, something I never ever thought I was brave enough to do or just smart enough to do, but I ended up getting my open water advanced and scientific diving certification through the USC Scientific Discovery Diving Program along a cohort of really, really amazing people. It was really special because we were able to talk about our imposter syndrome and our experiences in STEM, and then also geek about whatever we saw in our dives on a given day. So that was really special. And from there, I was really interested in genomics research, so and evolutionary biology, and I applied to the California Academy of Sciences RU program, and I ended up getting in. And I just did a project where I reorganized a phylogenetic tree of an ecologically complex group of sea slug. And in this program, I learned a ton of lab skills, and I learned how to code, which is something, again, I didn't really think I was smart enough to do. And it just brought me a lot of abundance into my life. And up there, you can see, I think this is after, I presented at the symposium with my 2 little sisters, and so that's been a huge driving force in my journey, making sure that they know that they can do anything that they put their minds to. And yeah, when applying to this program, again, I think I've already said it enough, but I didn't really see myself in the field. I didn't think I was smart enough to pursue it. But even if I didn't feel like it, I would always say, yes, I can, and I would apply to whatever program anyways. So that mentality has brought a lot of abundance and a lot of really special community into my life. I was able to travel to Panama and Hawaii on scholarship at CELP Pomona, as well as continue genomics research in Dr. Elizabeth Scordato's lab in avian evolution and present that at a couple conferences. And then establish the SACNIS chapter at CELP Pomona, which is a part of the national organization called Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science. And that has a purpose to diversify the STEM spaces by providing accessible resources, professional development workshops, and community events for minority students on campus. And now finally, I'm a dive master in training, which is a professional scuba diving career, something, again, I didn't really think I was capable of. But with this mindset of the power of saying, yes, I can, all of this has been possible. I didn't see myself in the field, so I set my mind to it and wanted to become the representation that I needed to see growing up. And even if I didn't feel like it, even if you don't feel like it, I encourage you to still apply to whatever scholarship, internship program. I didn't think I was going to be a CELP scholar, and I applied anyways, and here I am talking to you. So I encourage you to keep applying and just trying your best. And I also, this wouldn't be possible for me without my family and my support system, and my family that came before me that immigrated here, the sacrifices made out of love and selflessness. I would not be here without them. And I also want to thank the CELP Scholar cohort. You guys inspire me, just listening to all your presentations and looking at your updates on social media. And then, of course, the Aquarium of the Pacific. Thank you for letting me be a part of this community. This is really special. And yeah, thank you.
Introduce myself. Hi everyone, my name is Passion Hawkins. I'm a third-year PhD student at UCLA. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you. It was my fault. So yeah, I did my undergraduate at Hampton University. I did it in marine and environmental science. And now currently I'm a UCLA PhD student. And while I was at Hampton, I was honored to do a number of research opportunities. I was able to intern at the Georgia Aquarium. I also did the diversity project where I became a scientific diver. And I interned at the Marine Biological Laboratory. And it was here at the Marine Biological Laboratory, I really felt like I was collecting data for the sake of collecting data. And I didn't feel like I had a personal tie to a lot of the research that I was doing. So it was really at the Virginia Aquarium where I felt like I had this transition and a refinement into who I wanted to be as a scientist. So at the Virginia Aquarium, we were tasked to learn how to communicate climate disasters to young students. So as we talked about these different climate disasters like sea level rise and coral bleaching, it really clicked to me that at the middle of all these climate disasters felt like it was human choices. So how we spent money, how we used land, how we took from land, it felt like those were like the tipping points for a lot of these climate disasters we were seeing. But when I was reading these scientific papers, I felt like a lot of them really focused on climatic variables or historical climate variables, so measuring things like sea level rise and temperature. But I felt like they really ignored the human decisions that we had. So I really questioned if human decisions was pushing us towards these climate tipping disasters and these climate disasters. Why are we not measuring these variables along with measuring the traditional climate variables rather than just putting our human decisions into like the broader impacts or the conclusions of our papers? So at the time, I was an undergrad, and I didn't really know how to articulate this the most elegantly.
And I didn't know if people were doing this work. And then I found this podcast, Ologies, and there was this guest on there, and her name was Dr. Suzanne Pierre, and she was talking about this word, critical ecology, and she described critical ecology as being a science where people measured how the environment was changed and shaped by human decisions and human systems of power. And I just remember being in my dorm room like, this is like the language that I've been missing. And then fast forward, I got into UCLA for my PhD program, where I took my first environmental justice courses. And I was really forced to reckon with my different identities. So I had to think about my identities as being a woman, being from a historically Black university, and now being at this top research institution. And I had to understand that those identities really form the questions that I ask and also the questions that other researchers ask. And I learned that if we don't account for our different identities, we can impose biases on the communities that we're working on, and we could potentially negatively impact the communities that we're working in. So with that being said, I actually got to interview with Dr. Suzanne Pierre my first year and bring all these concepts and ideas to her. And now I'm actually able to work with her. And for my thesis, I'm working in this initiative that the Critical Ecology Lab is doing, called the Ecological Scars of Plantation Initiative. And we're looking at the impacts of colonial plantation or the regeneration of secondary forests. So I've actually moved outside of marine science into more of a terrestrial landscape. And I just want to leave you all with this quote by one of my favorite authors. All that you touch, you change, and all that you change changes you, and the only lasting change, truth is change. Just as a reminder that the questions that you ask and the things that you do not only impact you, but they also impact the broader communities that you work in. Thank you.
Hello. Oh, that is very loud. So I'm going to be talking to you today, and I'm going to just start off with a brief sort of introduction. So my name is Lydia Lifquist. I'm one of the 2025 CELP Scholars. I am a participant in the Marine Bio program at Cal State Long Beach. In my 4.5th year, I took an extra semester. I am from Bakersfield, California. I graduated high school from Stockdale High School. And, you know, why am I here? I'm here to hopefully talk to you about my journey and maybe inspire you. So one of the big things is, why did I end up choosing marine biology? Because I came from Bakersfield, and there's not really any water there, except the Kern River, which is kind of dried out. So it's, you know, why did I end up doing marine biology? Conservation is really important, and I'm really passionate about conservation. I think we should preserve the Earth and all of the Earth's systems. The ocean is really interesting and full of a lot of really cool creatures. And it's fun, at least for me, learning science, scuba, animal care, dissections, reading research papers. That's all really interesting. I was interested in music at first. I started out doing performance, and then I decided that science was the right path for me because field work is very refreshing, and I just really enjoy marine biology. I'm just very drawn to it. So I just wanted to tell you all some of the things that I've been doing. So I think I started a bit late, maybe like 2 years into my undergrad. I started exploring fieldwork. I started out in Christine Whitcraft's lab, doing fieldwork, transects, measuring, taking fish counts, getting in the mud. And I just recently finished my honors thesis statement. basically examining bird community composition in wetlands related to noise pollution. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to do some volunteer work. So I started volunteering at the Moore Institute for Plastic Pollution, basically sorting microplastics out of plankton samples. And it's very tedious work and very straining on your eyes. And these samples were taken from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And it was very fun, but obviously staring through a microscope for many hours can kind of hurt your eyes. And then after all of that, I went into my next year, and I ended up being selected as a College Corps intern. So I ended up interning at the Roundhouse Aquarium, and after that, I ended up getting selected as a CELP Scholar. And this was the year where I felt like I was kind of getting more into the field, and I was feeling a lot more accomplished. I got to have a lot of fun experiences, like feeding the animals. I've done a lot of cool events at the aquarium, like I even got to get kissed by a capybara. Like, there's so much cool stuff that I got to do during this time frame, especially at the Roundhouse Aquarium. My internship was very cool, doing aquatic husbandry. But now, right now, I'm at USC Wrigley, doing the Catalina semester, where we basically take classes and do research. And this is really cool. I've been really enjoying it. And in the future, hopefully I can get into a master's program and get my PhD. So I've kind of talked a bit about a lot of my accomplishments, but there have been a lot of obstacles to get here. As I started to feel more accomplished, the pressure was a lot more. And it really hasn't been easy getting here. Especially for me, being a disabled individual, I have ADHD, among other things. And there's not many people like me in STEM. Like, there's not as many queer people, there's not as many people of color, there's not as many disabled people. So it was a bit difficult to feel like I really had a place and like I belonged and like I was able to accomplish all of the things that I wanted to accomplish. I had no idea if it was even possible for me to be in science and how to pursue it, because no one in my family had ever pursued science. So there were a lot of obstacles there. But overall, I'm not sure why the slide looks like that. The format got messed up somehow. But my overall message was just to keep going. There's always people out there who are willing to help you. There's programs out there. If you have a genuine interest, you should participate. And you can always find your own path. There's so many paths in life. If you show genuine interest, people will take that into account, and you can get to where you want to be, and you can achieve all of your dreams and goals with your education. Don't be too intimidated. Just keep going. And that is the end of my talk.
All right, let me get used to the mic real quick. Okay, cool. Good morning, everybody. My name's Otto Martinez, and today I'm going to break down a little bit of my sort of career timeline and how sometimes there are often silver linings to a lot of your setbacks. My career actually started here about 20 years ago. Oh God, 20 years ago. This is me on a field trip here when I was in first grade at the rest in peace defunct second floor ray pool. But it was at this moment that I decided I want to become a marine biologist, and I feel like I've done pretty good on that journey. I got my bachelor's in marine bio here at Cal State Long Beach, and right now I'm getting my master's at Cal State Fullerton in biology, but still working in marine ecology. If you were to talk to me in high school and see what I imagined my career timeline looking like, it was a beautiful timeline, very simple. Graduated high school, got my bachelor's in marine biology, got my master's. got my PhD, and then quickly after, I assumed I would get a full-time job and become a full-time scientist. Let's take a look at how the timeline looks now. There's a lot going on. I did graduate high school. I did get my bachelor's, that little explosion there. I did graduate late because I failed a couple of classes. And then I had a gap year that turned into a gap 3 years, as I felt like I didn't have a lot of research experience, so I really didn't know if I could continue even in my journey to getting my master's or even becoming a marine biologist. Somehow persevered through that, and right now I am in my master's. However, if I were to take a look at both of these these quote-unquote setbacks and see some of the other things they've produced, turns out they really truly weren't setbacks. So at the time when I failed a couple classes, found out I was going to graduate late, I felt like a failure. I didn't feel smart enough. I felt like even though I would continue and finish my degree, my transcripts would reflect these failures. I also didn't have a lot of other good grades too. So I felt like when it came time to apply to master's programs or even apply to other jobs, my transcripts would reflect that sort of failure and not who I was at the end. Did I let this set me back or define me? No. One really good thing that came out of it was in that last semester, I was actually hired on to help instruct part of our school's invertebrate zoology course. So I got to play with a bunch of sea creatures. There's me making 2-prawn kiss. And some really cool things that came out of that was it was my first experience when it came to teaching in a formal setting, which I've learned to love over the last couple of years. And on top of that, working with the professor that instructed the course, I developed a connection. Him and I still keep in contact, and it was one of the first real professional references I got. So I was really proud of myself for that. I got my degree, but at the time when I graduated, I didn't have really any sort of experience in a research lab. I didn't have a lot of skills that I felt would translate to applying to jobs, or especially when you're looking at professors applying at PhD programs or master's programs, they require a lot of extra experience. So I felt, again, inadequate, and then seeing other people get these opportunities or continue on their career paths, I felt left behind. Once again, did I let that define me? No. I went and I just searched for any sort of opportunity I could take. One of those opportunities, back in 2022, I started volunteering in the education department at the Aquarium. There's me on my first day. I still volunteer to this day, and I would like to think that having a continuing presence and being here all the time did kind of help me in terms of getting accepted into the CELP Scholar Program and speaking to all of you this morning. Another thing too is I still continued and kind of reached out to some professors at certain colleges. I wasn't applying yet, but I still got, wanted some informational interviews, and I ended up meeting with a professor at Cal State Monterey Bay. Her name's Dr. Allison Haupt. She told me to apply to a post-bachelor's internship up there. I applied, I got in, she let me into her lab. I lived up there for 6 months where I studied how algae communities in tide pools bounce back from super major storm events. So I got field experience, I got so much experience, I got to present my research at a couple conferences. And at one of those conferences, I met a professor at Cal State Fullerton named Dr. Danielle Zackrell. It did help that Dr. Zackrell and Dr. Haupt were friends back when they were at UC Santa Barbara. But anyways, Dr. Zackrell told me to apply to her lab in a master's program at Cal State Fullerton. Flash forward to where I am right now. There's her and the rest of our lab, and there's me up at the top doing some surveys in the San Diego Bay. I'm currently getting my master's in biology. Specifically, our lab studies oysters, and my thesis specifically is going to look at if there is competition between the native Olympia oyster and the non-native Pacific oyster in estuaries in Southern California. Now, if you were to ask me what I want to do once I get my master's, I don't really know yet. I still would love to continue going on and becoming a full-time marine biologist researcher. I've also wanted to maybe get into more policy work, like with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then through TAing, as well as with my experience here at the Aquarium in the education department, I've really started to enjoy the idea of a career in informal education. So whether that be here at the Aquarium or at other museums or institutions like that. And you know what? The fact that I don't know, it's totally fine. I've learned from deconstructing that timeline back when I was in high school that there is a lot of time to still figure things out. So some advice I would give to other people is it is so hard to not get discouraged, but just keep pushing through that. A lot of times, the best breakthroughs I got was really decided, just keep pushing through it. Man, you're gonna make it through. Also, keep in contact with any teachers and professors. One thing that really helps is, you don't know this, but a lot of your teachers and professors really care about your success a lot more than you think they do. So hearing them still be invested in your success really helps you push through that discouragement. And then lastly, just be open to change, whether that's changes in that timeline you've set out for yourself or even changes in the type of career path you want to follow. And with that, Thank you. Questions are saved until the end. That's where you can reach me. Once again, thank you.
Hi. The last one. It's very scary. Yeah, being last is very scary, but let's just get into it. So my name is Dylan Matthew Crisostomo. I'm a fourth year environmental science and policy major at Cal State Long Beach with a minor in geography. It's exciting. I'm almost done. I have one more semester, but some more things about me. As you can see from my picture collage, I have a lot of hobbies. I love being outdoors. I love hiking, photography, paddleboarding, camping, and getting sweet treats. And so to talk about my start in environmentalism and environmental science, the things that got me into this, it wasn't one specific event or it wasn't any specific anything, but I think that it started from my early childhood. So like a lot of the CELP Scholars had talked about, they started here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. I grew up here in Long Beach, and one of the first field trips that a lot of us have is here to the aquarium. Aside from that, we also had field trips to like the Bolsa Chica wetlands, the Huntington Beach wetlands. And these experiences in these places taught me about the things that you can do to help our environment, and it taught me about the different people that exist in these spaces. And so combining those loves for the environment, I also was really into the movie Ponyo, if any of you are familiar with it. If you're not familiar with it, Ponyo is a movie about a little fish girl that falls in love with a boy. But one of the underlying themes of the movie is environmentalism, and it talks about human effects on the environment. And so when you combine those three experiences from my early childhood, I realized that as I was growing up, the things I wanted to do were connected to helping our environment and wanting to be an advocate for a better future for us. And so these continued to manifest in my young adulthood. Something that I learned to love, and I still do to this day, is a lot of beach and park cleanups. They have the one on like the first Saturday of every month at the beach, and they have the El Dorado Nature Center. They have their park cleanups. All of these things are things I just love to do because it not only connects me with the environment, but it connects me with people that want to do the same things that I'm interested in. And I kind of already talked about that with what being an environmentalist looks like in terms of advocacy and physical action. But with all of that, even though I had known what I wanted to do for a long time, I had some really big struggles, mainly with imposter syndrome. If you're not familiar with imposter syndrome, it's this weird feeling that you don't belong in a space, or you don't belong, period. It bothered me so much that I would go on to do research and create workshops talking about imposter syndrome and helping people figure out what this feeling is and how to combat it. And I talked to everyone about it. I learned that professors and professionals in their fields felt the same things that I'm feeling. And that really helped me to better understand what I was going through and how to get through it. Something, I wasn't gonna talk about this, but being honest with you all, one of the biggest things that sparked imposter syndrome for me was at school. I was in my class, I think it was like Intro to California Wildlife or something like that. And one of my classmates had come up to me and she was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?" And she was like, I was like, "This is my class, like, what do you mean?" And she was like, "No, what are you doing here? And at that moment, I kind of knew what she was talking about. And if you know anything about like de-escalation training, it's like you walk away, you don't respond, things like that. So I stopped responding. But then she went on to say that we only learn about environmentalism because your people don't care about it. And she was talking about, oh my gosh, she had said that we only have to fix the environment because Chinese people are polluting it. And she went on and on and on and said, like, you are like the reason that I'm here, so I don't understand why you're here too. And I was like, first off, I'm not Chinese. Second off, what the, like, hello? That was insane. And so it really made me think about, not do I belong here, because I knew that I belonged, but what are the things that I stand for when it comes to environmentalism? And so going back to advocacy, I learned about environmental justice, which focuses on what needs to be done in terms of environmentalism. Specifically, it talks a lot about racial and ethnic action that you can take. And so that interaction honestly fueled me to invest more in my advocacy work, which I do with the Educational Opportunity Program at Cal State Long Beach. I work as a mentor for them. I also worked as a ambassador for the Asian Pacific Islander and Desi Resource Center at Cal State Long Beach, where I was able to do research about climate change and how it affects the Pacific Islands, specifically people from Samoa and the Maori people. And so imposter syndrome has been affecting me a lot, and it still affects me. But knowing that I have my inspirations there to always help me is one of the biggest things that made me realize that things are possible. So this is my found family. These are the people that I do this for. My inspirations are the people that I want to be better for, or they inspire me to do better. So you could see in the top left, it's like my coworkers, and all of the ones on the right are my friends. The bottom left is my baby sister. And so these are the people that let me know that I'm doing the right thing. And they're always so proud of me, and it makes me really happy. But thank you.
All right, can we have one more round of applause for our round two? And while we take a minute to bring our house lights up, I'm going to invite our scholars, our round two scholars, up to the table. Okay, panelists, as you find your seat, the microphones are on, so no need to wonder if they're on or not. No, I'm not saying any, just saying. My heart. Thank you so much again for sharing so much of your stories. I hope everyone feels so inspired, but I know that there are some follow-up questions. So especially from our students who would like to get us started with some questions, even if it maybe is a question that we tackled in the first round, but we want to ask of the scholars that we have now in front of us.
What do you think like you did in high school or just like before you went to college that has like affected or like impacted where you are right now? Or like what are you doing like in your life right now? Like how has that led to this moment?
From when I was in like elementary school all the way up to when I graduated, I was in Boy Scouts. So being constantly outdoors, as well as a lot of our summer camps were like on Catalina or in San Diego, like already being put out in like, you know, being outdoors and being promoted that stewardship for the outdoors has really inspired me to go more down the path of ecology, conservation, and restoration.
I think talking to people, I think this is the first step now that you guys are here and you have like these people that you can talk to and pull to the side. And I think even sending emails out to people, and you can say like you're in high school, like people are more than open and to like find something for you to do. So if you find something of interest, don't let somebody's position intimidate you. Just reach out and yeah, talk to anyone. I feel like talking to people has gotten me into a lot of doors. And also, you don't have to talk to someone elite either. You can just talk to a peer. I think a lot of peer mentorship has helped me so much.
I wanted to kind of like add on to that because I know there's like a lot of people, like especially in this field, there's a lot of people who like started volunteering at aquariums when they were like in high school and stuff. And like I never got to do any of that. I only really started getting into the field like a couple of years into my undergrad degree. Like I was taking the classes, but I wasn't really like, I didn't have like a lot of like successes with like internships and that sort of thing. But I think the thing that really helped me was just like being persistent and being willing to talk to people, like especially like professors. Like if you're interested in doing something, like you can just go knock on their door and ask them. You don't have to like send an email and wait for them to respond to you and then wait like a week and they don't respond. Like you can go knock on their door and like talk to them because they're normal people. So
my experience is kind of similar to Lydia's, where like I didn't have a single marine biology experience before I started studying marine biology in college. But I think also like within STEM, the skills are so transferable. So you can just start with what you have and what you know. In high school, I did a project on soil, which is not really that similar to the ocean, but I learned a lot of valuable skills that I was able to transfer into college. And I also think that it's okay to not know and not have experience because you have a lot of time. People change their majors all the time in college. And I think that early on in your career, it's actually more important to know what you don't like than what you do, because you don't want to accidentally be trapped in a career that you're not passionate about. So saying yes to things and trying things even if you don't think it's something that you will enjoy can surprise you, and you might end up somewhere that you wouldn't have expected.
It happens. Otto told us setbacks are normal. I want to follow up on something I heard. Dylan, thank you so much for sharing imposter syndrome and providing that definition for us. So I heard Otto say that imposter syndrome is that sense that you don't belong in the room that you're in, or you're not supposed to be there. I'm going to start with the rest of our panelists. Have any of you ever felt that imposter syndrome? Okay, and now I'm going to ask real quick, in the audience, has anyone ever felt that? I want you all to look around. There are a lot of people with really fancy titles in this room that are raising their hands. It's so common. I'd love to ask, does anybody want to sort of chime in and add into or add on to sort of the conversation that Dylan started about imposter syndrome and how you tackle that, what suggestions you have for all of us who are facing that?
Yeah, I think with imposter syndrome, I think it's actually a really sad thing where it's like we all feel like we're the only ones that struggle with it. And as you can see, every single person basically raised their hand. So I think one of the ways to combat that is to talk about it, to find people that you trust, that you can share, that maybe you feel lost or you don't feel good enough. STEM is like a really competitive field, unfortunately, and so I think it's important to surround yourself with people that inspire you and motivate you instead of compete with you and make you feel like you're not enough. So yeah, I think finding a safe space and a good community, but then also realizing literally everyone struggles with it, which is kind of this ironic thing because none of us feel like we belong, which is kind of weird, but yeah, I think talking about it is like the best way to work through it. But I literally struggle with it every single day. Being here right now is like the epitome of imposter syndrome, but yeah.
Yeah, to add on to that, I feel like imposter syndrome is an ongoing like battle. Even like you said, even being here, it feels like, am I supposed to be here? Like, do I deserve to be here? But for me, definitely like I didn't really have much experience in high school, like in terms of marine biology, and so I didn't get started until after I had left soccer, and that was a really big change for me. And so for me, it was just finding programs and finding community. And if I didn't see that community, like I would build one. So reaching out to peers, even reaching out to professors, and just constantly affirming to myself that even if I don't believe it, like I can pursue this. And yeah.
I think one thing that's important is talking about it, because even just by talking about it to other people, you might actually like unlock that community. One thing that's really helped when I've been volunteering at the aquarium, you know, while I was still in that period of uncertainty, is there was a whole bunch of other volunteers in the education department that were just like me, that like just took the first opportunity and didn't have experience. So just talking to those people and being like, thank God I'm not the only person experiencing this. As well as like once you get to college, there are a lot of different groups on campus. Like Jordan mentioned, SACNAS, which I'm part of the SACNAS chapter at my school. And I didn't know it existed until like I was in my internship in Monterey, and I'm like, wow, there is this entire national organization that is really built to help combat this imposter syndrome in Chicanos, Native Americans, and other underrepresented communities. So sometimes you gotta dig a little bit for it, but that community does exist.
I think for me, like with imposter syndrome, like one of the big things is like feeling like maybe like I don't know enough to like accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. Like everyone in the room like knows more than me and is like more capable of doing it. But I think what helped me is like realizing that like the people that are in like high positions and stuff, like they had to learn to get there. And also like sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing, but also like a lot of other people don't know what they're doing. So it's like I guess my point is that like with imposter syndrome, like you just need to try and believe in yourself.
One more thing. There's this poem. It's famously known to be by Nelson Mandela, but when I have imposter syndrome, it's called Our Deepest Fear, and I really recommend it. To summarize it, it's really a poem about how we kind of like stand in our own way and that we're kind of afraid of our own light. So yeah.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. So I have a comment and a question. My comment being, thank you guys for your presentations, including the first round. Okay, now I was too far. Oh my God. Where's the perfect medium? Right there. So yeah, thank you guys for sharing your experiences. My comment is that I think I've seen the progression of these symposiums becoming us talking about research and just what our scientific journey has looked like, into talking more about what personal journey has looked like and how that has fueled your passion for science. And me and some of my peers have talked about it during that break. And so I wanted to acknowledge that, because that is beautiful, because what makes science is the journeys that people experience to get them to be a scientist. So I hope you guys feel good about that, and everyone in this room feels good about that. But my unrelated question is that we and you guys have talked a lot about mentorship and the people that have helped you progress into the position you're currently in, people being your research advisors, your academic advisors, professors. And so I would like for you guys to share quality traits that you guys have seen in some of your favored mentors along your journey.
For me, my first role model or mentor that I looked up to was the DSO at USC Wrigley. Her name is Hannah Reed, and she, unlike a lot of the male coaches that I had in the past, was really just to put an emphasis on you can make mistakes and you can get past them, an emphasis on putting yourself first and making sure that you and your mental and physical health are good before anything else. Making sure you have balance in your life. And then, of course, just like basic kindness and empathy, which is something that unfortunately was not taught for me in competitive athletics. It's something obviously everyone should be like just intrinsically known and taught, but the coaches that I had never really discussed that. So, yeah.
I think like with a lot of the like mentors and like faculty that I've looked up to, like one of the big qualities, obviously like they're all like really smart and professional and everything, but I think one of the things that I kind of admire is their like, I guess kind of their ability to just like be a person, because like sometimes with professors like I get really intimidated, but with a lot of the mentors that I've looked up to, like they're very open to just like talking to you, and I think that combined with like professionalism, like I think that's been like a quality that I've looked up to, and that has also like helped me get more comfortable with the field.
One thing is obviously like, you know, empathy, making sure you can relate to people who don't have the same identity as you, as well as just being honest about what's gone through in your career. I've gotten that from my advisor that I worked under at Monterey Bay and my current advisor at Cal State Fullerton, and I've kind of taken those experiences, and right now I TA like an intro level freshman class, so a lot of them are like terrified. A lot of them are like, I will say the lecture professor is like turning it into sort of weed out class. So it's like being there as their TA, I want to be there, and it's like, hey, it's okay if you like fail a couple classes. I did that too, and look at where I am. And they're like, no, you have your life together. You couldn't have failed. And I'm like, yeah, it happens all the time. So I think just really being able to empathize is like super helpful.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing, understanding and empathy. With my mentors and me as a mentor as well, that's something that I always try to look for, and that's something that I always try to do. One of my favorite mentors, her name's Shannon Sayula. She's my boss at the APID Resource Center. She likes to say to meet people where they're at, because it's really important to, like, that's a really big portion of understanding that not a lot of people understand. Meeting someone where they're at is like, if you are a mentor, maybe you have to change your lens, change your focus and understanding of where someone is currently, maybe something from their background or their current situation is affecting them. And so to be as effective as a mentor as you could possibly be, it's trying to just sit there and understand and empathize with them. And those have always been like the core values of my mentors that have really helped me.
All right, any more questions from the audience? Our students, yes.
I really liked Jordan's comment about, particularly for this question, she gave examples of how her professional life has kind of influenced or helped her see different things about her past profession or hobby, let's say, like soccer. And it inspired this question. I was just wondering, are there any other parallels to how this career path that you have now has made you think differently or shaped your hobbies or your past enjoyment, I guess?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially if you know anything about like competitive athletics, there can be this emphasis on overexertion to get like a given result. So just not really being able to say no. And I think in this field, I've learned how to find balance and being able to say no. And then I think with soccer, I definitely lacked a sort of confidence as I like progressed. I realized it wasn't the environment and community for me, and so I kind of started losing passion for it. And I started finding like that marine biology was like my core passion and something I wanted to pursue. I think that confidence came like a little bit, I mean, I'm still working on it, but it came a little bit easier for me. And I think I just, yeah, it was a passion where I just was like wanting to throw myself into every program and scholarship and opportunity that I got and make it worthwhile, while of course like prioritizing myself and being able to say no. Yeah, thank you for your question.
Any other questions? Okay, I have one. I'll go. So many of you mentioned community at different levels, family, friends, being a support, CELP Scholar. I also heard SACNAS. Are there other professional communities like SACNAS that you would recommend members of our audience look into if they are looking for those larger communities of support?
Yeah, I know some communities that have helped me, especially there's BLEAM, so that's Black Women in Evolution, Ecology, and Marine Science. They have a peer mentoring group, and I think there are other communities like it, but communities like that offer peer mentoring groups where they kind of offer like these triangles of mentoring where you're mentoring someone who's like below, like a little below you in their academic or career, and then you're getting mentored by someone else. That hierarchy or that setup has helped so much. Yeah.
For me, I'd also recommend SACNAS, which we've touched on a little bit already. There typically is a chapter in like most universities. There wasn't one in mine, so me and a couple other people established one at Cal Poly last fall. But the purpose of the chapter is to diversify the STEM spaces by providing accessible resources on scholarships and internships and workshops on like personal statements, how to write a cold email. We had, every time we table, we have freshmen come up to us or like anyone really in their collegiate career and they're like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. Like, I've been wanting to learn how to do this. This is really cool. Like, SACNA stands for Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native American Science. So it's like focused on uplifting those communities. And so they always say it's something that they were like looking for. And yeah, and it's also a really cool organization because they have this annual conference called NDI STEM where you can go and present your research. But along with research presentations and workshops, they also do cultural celebrations in the evening, which is something you don't really get at any other conference. So definitely recommend checking that out at your college.
Hi everyone, congratulations on your speech. So I wanted to ask, a lot of you touched on either mention learning challenges, imposter syndrome, or spoke about like not knowing where you lie on your identity. So I was wondering, when you're going through those challenges, did you use any like resources on campus to help you deal with like to support your mental health, or were there other outlets that you used to help you navigate through that?
Okay. So this kind of ties back into the last question for me too, but to help me with those, I wouldn't go to like our mental health like department on campus. They were really busy, so I would always go to like the Educational Opportunity Program, which I highly recommend you all to apply. That office is filled with, the main purpose of that office and those people are to help first generation students, especially ones from marginalized communities. So when I was dealing with imposter syndrome, I would always go there to talk to them because they all had come from similar backgrounds that I had been in. Outside of that, other ways or other like departments or things that had supported me was just joining like our student organizations, whether that be related to my major. There was the Environmental Science and Policy Club at Cal State Long Beach, or I also joined the Cambodian Student Society, which both of those had helped me with both my academics and my emotional. So doing things like that over time have helped me not only with like mental health issues and imposter syndrome, but also helped me with social connections and professional connections as well.
think I was going to say something quite similar. Even in undergrad, I remember my last year, I did therapy because there's typically like therapists on campus, and also now that I'm in graduate school, I've stayed in therapy, and it's just a great way to like normalize some of those experiences, and just as a reminder that I'm human and I'm not robotic. And it's just great having someone to just like who's kind of been on this journey with me, and I know it's not going anywhere, and I can just like confide in. So yeah.
One thing that I've used a lot, not necessarily like specifically like a like therapist or anything to like help mental health, but it does help, is if you need like any sort of like accommodations, like disability accommodations. Most campuses have some sort of like organization that will help you get accommodations, and that's been really helpful because like it helps lower the stress of school and everything, so I don't get as stressed out. So yeah, definitely like disability services and accommodations are like, and that's an important service. That and like on campus mental health services, I haven't really used them, but they're usually good, at least for like short-term stuff.
I would say one of my best outlets is just to step outside of STEM every once in a while and to develop hobbies outside of school, because no one's just a scientist. Everyone's more than just that. And I find that if you develop hobbies and passions outside of just your academics, you can't just tie your identity and your self-worth in your school, because that will inevitably not always be a perfect smooth ride. And when something goes wrong and your entire identity is wrapped around your grades and your resume, that can not be a fun place to be in. But if you have other hobbies and other passions that you can rely on for that feeling of like self-worth and self-love, I think that's really important, as like corny as that sounds. But yeah, I think definitely try to develop, like school's so important, being a scientist is amazing, but like developing other things outside of that is also really important, because we're humans, we're not just like a LinkedIn role, you know, we're more than that.
I think for me, one of the most important things is honestly, my friends are some of the greatest support system I could ever ask for. And like what Amelia said, just like a lot of my friends are obviously outside of STEM too. So getting those perspectives and also like seeing that people are struggling outside of the same field you're in really helps put things into perspective. It builds a lot of community. And then sometimes I'll open up to one of my friends and then they'll open up back and I'm like, you know what? I don't have it as bad as some other people do. So, and I will come back with empathy to them still. But sometimes you just kind of sit back and you're like, okay, cool. I can make it through this.
All right, scholars, thank you so much. Can we give them one last round of applause? And you're welcome to head on. Woo! Everyone, take a deep breath. We did it. Congratulations. We have heard from our incredibly inspiring scholars. I hope you are leaving us today feeling ready to persevere and push through whatever you have in front of you. I want to thank you all for spending the day with us, but I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to have a special shout out to one person who hasn't been up here yet. I just want to say, Candace, thank you so much for everything you do for our scholars. Candace Cross is our STEM Pathway Coordinator. Her very first day 2 years ago was the Scholar Symposium. I know, I'm the worst. I was like, hey, you're so flexible and willing to jump in and want to start day one on the symposium? Oh, sure, yeah. Candace, I'm so grateful for everything that you do. I know that you have built such phenomenal relationships with our scholars. Thank you for connecting and helping to build the community involving all of our cohorts. So thank you so much for all you do for this program. I'm going to pass it. Can we give Candace a round of applause? Okay. And I'm going to pass it back to Jenny.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Allie. Allie deserves the same level of appreciation. Thank you. This program was born in part due to Allie. So she lives it daily, as does Candace, and very, very grateful for the leadership that both of you have shown, not just putting together this event, but making sure everyone stays connected and we grow into the future. Similar to what Allie said, I really want to thank everybody for showing up today, for trusting us with some really deeply personal stories and successes and challenges. It was really brave of you, and you all did a really wonderful job. Thank you. Imposter syndrome came up quite a lot. I'm somebody who suffers from imposter syndrome too, so I thought I'd leave you with 2 suggestions on that. The first is find a pump-up song, something that makes you feel good before you go into the thing that's really scary. I have a couple. One of them's Katy Perry, Roar. I encourage you to adopt it if that resonates with you. The other thing that I think that you should use is a quote that one of your peers gave. So Derek, even though he did a video presentation because he's out on a wonderful vessel, had something that I found really inspiring. Actually, I found a lot of what you said as inspiring, and I took quotes from each of you, so expect those to come back to you positively at some point in the future. But Derek's quote really helps address this. He said, "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. So when you're feeling like something is too much or that you don't belong, you just have to keep going. And you're going to do a great job." So keep that in mind. We're coming to the close of the program, but it would be important to mention all of the wonderful people who have joined us in the room or online. So thank you so much for your support, and I encourage you, if you need an icebreaker as you approach one of these wonderful scholars, perhaps share your imposter syndrome pump-up song. We can probably end, there's one other announcement before we end our video live stream, which is that you can be a part of this community. Applications for the 2026 Scholar Cohort open on Monday. So right after you wish Diana happy birthday, you then forward the application materials to your friend, your neighbor, somebody who you think should join this incredible network of people. So